My name is Donovan, and today we are going to do passing data, part one of three. And part one is going to concentrate on passing data from one view controller to the next using a segue. And then part two and three will concentrate on how to pass data in other ways in iOS. So let's get started. We created a new project here, so we're going to select single view application. We should name this passing data part one. All right. I already have one in here, but we're gonna replace that. Okay. So right when we start off, let's go to storyboard and see what we're working with. Okay, so we have just a blank view controller, so we have one. So we're gonna need two because we're gonna pass it from here over to a second one. So let's come over here and drag out a second view controller onto our storyboard. And how this is going to happen is we will make a text field on the first view controller along with a button. And whatever we type in the text field, and we will then press the button, and that will send whatever in that text field over to this view controller and display that into a label. And let's actually come up here to this first view controller and embed in a navigation controller, which is going to give us the navigation bar and will allow us to get back to our first view controller when we go to our second, because it'll give us a default back button. So if you just click on this, come up to editor, embed in navigation controller. All right, let's bring that up here. Perfect. All right, so let's drag all of our UI elements onto our view controller. First, we will bring out a text field. Along with a button. Should make this really, really big. Awesome. And let's change the background color of this just so we'll be able to see our UI elements a little better. Orange is cool. And change the background color of the button to white. Awesome. All right, and since we're going to pass whatever is in this text field over to here, we need some way to display it over here, and we will do that with a label. Just center that, come over here, and hit reset the suggested constraints. Auto layout will do some magic and hopefully guess which constraints we actually want and put our UI elements where we want on our view controller. So, or on our view. All right, so we have that all set up, and now we need a segue. So when we press this button, we want to come over to here. So let's click on the button and drag. Hold and drag over to here and hit show. You'll see it gave us a navigation bar on the second view controller. Let's also center this label. Oops. There we go. Okay. And when we first start off the project, it just gives us this one view controller file. We're going to delete that and create two new ones, one for our first view controller, one for the second one. So let's just select new file, come over to Cocoa Touch class, and it's going to be a subclass of UI view controller. And let's name this. Let's just name this first view controller and second view controller. All right. Second view controller. All right, so we have our first view controller and second view controller classes, and we need to assign those classes to these on this storyboard. So come over here, let's click on this first one, click this, and we will come over to the class and we'll change that to first view controller. And let's go over to the second and change that to second view controller. Awesome. So now these should be assigned appropriately. Alright, so now we need a way to access the text in here. So how do we do that? Well, we need access to this text field. So if you just click on the text field, or let's just click on this view controller actually, come up to the assistant editor. Let's select that. And this will allow us to drag from here over to here and make an outlet for it. And will allow us access to that text field. So let's just call this string text field, okay? And we need to also make an outlet for our label because we will need to access the label's text property because we're going to set that with whatever we send through the segue, but whatever text is in this text field. So you'll notice if we select anything on another view controller, the assistant editor changes our class appropriately, which is convenient. So let's drag from the label over to here, and we will just call this, let's call it string label. Awesome. All right, let's run our application real quick just to make sure that we can get to here and then also back. Make sure everything's working right. Awesome. We can get back and forth. All right, so what next? Well, let's go to our first view controller. You'll notice that we created our class and it gave us this commented out code right here. It says navigation, right? So let's get rid of some of this. In a storyboard-based application, you will often want to do a little preparation before navigation. So this is pretty much saying, what do we want to do when we're segueing? Like what needs to occur? So that's why it's called prepare for segue. So we're preparing to navigate from one view controller to the next through a segue. And you'll notice that there's also some commented, there's also some comments right here that help us understand that a little bit better. It says, get the new view controller using segue.destination view controller. And when they say segue, they're meaning this. Okay? And then we will pass the selected object to the new view controller. So that's actually exactly what we're doing and what we're aiming for, right? We're going to pass an object, which will be the string text field's text, and we're going to pass it to the second view controller and set our label with that text. So let's take care of this part first and get a reference to our second view controller. So we will say let destination VC or view controller, whatever you feel comfortable with, is equal to segue.destination and as second view controller. We have to cast it to our second view controller, so it knows that this is the type of view controller we want. And we need to do that because we're going to access a property on here that we're about to make, or a variable that we're going to make. So let's come on over to here and let's create a variable. So variable, and we will call this past string, and we'll just give this a default string value. So this is the string that we're going to set with whatever text is in this text field when we press our button and segue over to the second view controller. So in view did load, since we already have an outlet for a label, let's just go string label dot text. So we have to access the text property of our string label is equal to past string, right? So set this with whatever the value of this is. So now if we come into here and we do destination VC dot, you should see as we start typing past string, we actually have now access to that variable. We're going to say is equal to string text field dot text. Right, it's going to yell at us because it's an optional, so we're just going to give it force unwrap it for now. Actually, just to keep everything in sync with these comments, we're going to do that, right? So this is when we're going to pass the selected object to the new view controller. So which is, we're going to call this the object. So we're going to pass the text of whatever's in the text field over to here. Perfect. Okay, and it should be all good once we run it. So let's give it a go. Type in hello. Awesome.